So this particular seal I've pulled out because, well, apart from the fact that I actually like the matrix on this, the style of it is typical 1700, and it's one of, I think it must be my favourite kind of period. I love the combination of ivory and silver. To me, those two materials were just made in heaven. Sorry, whilst I've got it in my hand, I'll just show you that the vast majority of these seals are actually in two parts, the handle. Not all with the spike, but invariably the handle comes into two. So, aged ivory, to me, just looks fantastic. It's polished, it's got a kind of a patina to it, which I think is very, very tactile. Quite heavily banded, the stem, tapering to the silver collar and silver matrix. And you'll see when we do a close-up of this that it has, it's an unusual matrix, but it shows a helm at the top, above what looks like an egg timer, but is a sand timer. Two initials either side, and at the base has a picture of a skull. This seal belongs to a nobleman. His two initials are on it, and its purpose is not so much to identify him in an official capacity, but more to, it's what we call a memento mori. It's a reminder of his mortal self. So the sand timer and the skull being references to his mortality. He's aware of his mortality and he's okay with it. And at this time, it was a big thing. So there are quite a few references to skulls, death, not in a morbid sense, but it was the appreciation of to make the most of what you have. So that one there is mushroom-handled silver matrix. It's a great combination, and the collection has quite a number of this style. Well, frankly, because we loved them, and my father and I loved that style. Next up, I have this, in contrast, a very attractive, fairly short, stubby, smoky quartz wax seal with it's really tactile. You can't get that on film, of course, but it's a very, very tactile fluted top, faceted side, and then this really, really sumptuous armorial on the oval matrix. There's a nick taken out of the rim. Fair enough, but it doesn't detract from the engraving itself, which isn't affected by that little nick. You'll see in the close-up what I'm talking about, but it is gorgeous. These are the arms of a Russian family called Kropotkin, and Kropotkin is one of the families who are noted in the 1,000 families of Russia. It's their equivalent of a who's who. This armorial shows a cannon, two balls on the ground, and on top of the cannon is a bird, i.e. I forget officially what it is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to look like a pheasant. To me it looks like a pigeon, but regardless of that, it's very sumptuous with its decoration under a coronet. Smoky quartz, I think, is a very attractive material. Works very, very well with me. And this one is actually on the website. The collection has a number of smoky quartz seals, but I'm a great fan of that one. Moving on, different material, similar sort of date. This one is 1840-ish, and this is a spinning seal. Spinning seals are very collectible because of their intrigue. They're unusual, more unusual, of course, than the standard single matrix. But this one is with a rose quartz handle. Now, isn't that gorgeous? I mean, pink is a great colour with seals, I think, anyway. But this tapering rose quartz handle, which I have to say is in great condition, just looks the bee's knees. And then that is coupled to this, which is, I think it's probably a gilt collar and arms supporting a crystal, a plain crystal, matrices. There are 3 matrices, and the idea of having multiples was that the owner could then decide to whom they were writing to, who got what. So usually you have an armorial, which is an official armorial. So your official status, you would then have a secondary one which has slightly less information, as it were, but still made it clear as to who you were. And the third normally had something like just initials, which would be sent to family members or very close friends who would know you by just your initials. They're really well engraved. I mean, we haven't talked much about engraving on materials, but I can tell you from what I've learnt, getting depth into some of these materials without any damage, but with the detail, is a phenomenal art and a skill. And it's a skill that I, in particular, would like to support more, because it's one of those arts which is seen as a dying art, and it fills me with horror to think that somebody with a skill like that one day simply won't be around. Anyway, you'll see those in close-ups. So I wanted to introduce you to this one because it's a slight anomaly, but I really like it. So on the face of it, this is a navet-shaped silver fob seal with a chain attached to a secondary fob seal. Now, one might imagine that this is medieval in style or Gothic because of its style, but not so. This was actually made for the Oxford Architectural Society. Who would have guessed? And they were supporting the Gothic style, and so they had seals made in that style. So, not medieval, 1845, and we can say that with confidence because there's a full set of English hallmarks on the silver. It's a solid silver fob, so it's got weight to it, which I really like. The full set of marks include the maker's mark, which is for Stephen Warwick. So we have a good maker, we have an interesting subject, and to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what the initials are on the second fob, but the navet matrix is very much in the Gothic style, Gothic text with a cross, mentioning the Oxford Architectural Society. So an interesting one, and not many, in fact I don't know of another one which is copying the style quite so well as that. So I wanted to show you this one. This is a particularly attractive seal. You'll see in the close-up perhaps some of the detail in this, I mean, this gorgeous deep sea blue enamel with machine banding. Gold top, gold matrix, gold collar. Simply, I mean, it is beautiful to handle. Screw thread with a matrix on the base, which is cut very much in the Art Deco style. And not surprising, because this belonged to Josephine Baker. Now, Josephine Baker, for all who may not have heard her name, was a lady in the 1920s. She was a black American who came over from America following a lot of problems over there with her race, and she ended up in Paris. Paris adored her and embraced her for her dancing. She was one of the flappers in the 1920s, remarkably successful, very outspoken about women's rights, and her fame and fortune preceded her, and this seal belonged to her, which was a gift. It was a gift from one of her admirers, and the collection now owns this, and I think it is just beautiful. I mean, it is so Art Deco in its style. It belonged to somebody who had a great story, greatly admired by everyone here. And so that's one that I really do like. I really do like that. It's a great combination of enamel and gold. This little socket seal here is perhaps unexciting. And I have to say that it's one of those sockets that has been in the collection for a number of years, and every time I see it, it fascinates me. It's a socket seal, meaning that it doesn't have a handle. It has a strike mark on the collar. I cannot find anywhere for where that belongs. I think it must be Italy, because on the matrix, on the oval matrix, we have a lion standing with the text Diaconi. Diaconi meaning deacon, and in Italian, I suspect. So I think it belonged to an Italian deacon, but it fascinates me because I cannot get any further with that strike mark. The text, I'm holding it up as if you can see it. You'll see it up in the close-up. The text I find is hand engraved. It's not machine made, and the lion is very attractive. So this is a stamp, not a seal. Again, it's something which we collect, stamps rather than seals. We collect as well, but that is just really curious. It's been hand engraved, and it intrigues me. So I always am fascinated by that one. I'd like to tell you about this little desk seal. In fact, this is either a desk seal or a pocket seal, and this fascinates me because of the materials that it uses. So this is a banded agate, tapering handled pocket seal, I'll call it, with a silver collar, which is really ornately decorated. You'll see this in the close-ups that we'll do with it. And then that leads to what is a really attractively carved ivory cushion. Really beautifully carved cushion. And then on the base we have a rectangular matrix made out of mother of pearl with the most stunning armorials on it, with motto, with coronet, with crest, Duke of Richmond. And I think the bit that I appreciate the most, apart from the fact of all the different materials in such a small seal, is the fact that that mother of pearl is really awkward to cut. It is very brittle and flaky, and yet they've been able to carve the most complicated armorial into it with such detail without any damage. There is a small amount of damage in the top, but that's nothing to do with the engraving. The armorial itself is just perfect. The skill of the engraver is phenomenal. So my admiration is for the engraving, but the combination of all those materials into one little pocket seal I find amazing.